Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first official podcast. Today is something that we've been planning for a very long time, and we're quite excited to bring this to the entire Icon community and anyone who is potentially interested in blockchain or anything to do with the Icon ecosystem. I am your host, Fezbox. I am part of the crypto setups team, and with me I have Iconographer.
Hey Fez, how are you? I'm excited to be here and be a part of this little adventure we're doing. I've been kind of thinking of participating some way, shape, or form in a podcast for a long time, but never really kind of got it up and running or had the motivation on my own to do it or the time. So I'm glad you're taking the lead here.
No, excellent. No, I know. I was pestering you a little bit because I've been a big fan of your content and often turn to it to understand a few things. So one of the things I noticed in the Icon ecosystem, this was lacking, and I love my podcast. So I thought, oh, we could add so much value on this front, and we thought, what a better name than Eye on Icon, because everything we're going to talk about is about Icon. So it's a pleasure, setting this up, and really excited to make this a regular occurrence. So
Absolutely.
excellent, excellent. So what is our podcast Eye on Icon about? So the way I see it is, if you're new to Icon, if you're an existing Iconist, if even you're some devs who are looking to build on Icon, our goal here is to talk about everything happening on the Icon ecosystem. It is to bring you the latest news on all the DApps and protocols that are being built. It is to give you the latest news on, essentially what's happening from the Icon loop side of things, what we know of, what we're gathering from some of the forums and everything we're part of. And, to also really compare, because Icon, the way I see it is it's a newer ecosystem. So you have Ethereum and you have your existing protocols that are established. So we can often draw comparisons to what is going to come out on Icon and where it is on Ethereum, and what potential opportunities it presents. So that's the way I see it, and we both kind of see it, and really looking forward to hope it adds a lot of value to anyone listening to it as well.
Yeah, I think, from my perspective, it's, there's people who out there who, they have busy lives, they have a lot going on. The good news is there's a lot going on in Icon, especially these days. The bad news is you don't always have time to know about it. So, I think from my standpoint, I'm hoping that, we provide, a bit of time each week or two, just kind of giving a distillation of kind of what's going on, some analysis for you to get you kind of caught up on that front, as well as run through some news. So if all you have is, say, an hour every 2 weeks to get caught up on what's going on with Icon, ideally this podcast can kind of check that box for you.
What is Icon and what is it all about? Iconograph, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, so I think if you're listening to this podcast, you probably, to a certain extent, know the answer to this question already. From the day it's set out, and I don't know how many listeners date all the way back to kind of the ICO days. I popped in just slightly after ICO the ICO when I first got interested in the project. But there's kind of, when the project first came along, the goal was the phrase, interoperability, hyperconnectivity, those different things. And at the time, it was basically the only project, at least as far as I recall, that was really staking its claim on the idea that, hey, look, there's going to be all these different blockchains as time goes on. There needs to be a way to have them connect to each other, talk to each other, other than just have all these kind of walled cities that don't have a way to interact or anything like that. So that was the goal Icon set about doing. And I think it's important to point out that, I think I'll trace a little bit of Icon's history here, because it goes back way, way, way before even the ICO, to a certain extent. I did about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer. I did a 9-part series, kind of breaking down Icon. One of those chapters really dug in deep on the genesis of it that I'll kind of run through here. But if you want more depth on that, I'd encourage you to read that, and we'll put that in the show notes so it's easy to access for you guys. It's on my Medium account. But basically, Icon started with, there was this really, really big Korean conglomerate called Yellow Mobile, which, you know, it has mobile in it. So you're immediately jump to, you know, a tech company, which it basically was, but it dabbled in a lot of different other businesses as well. It was a startup in the early 2010s, I think around 2012. It was valued at $4 billion at one point in time. So it was a very cutting edge, big company with a lot of money, a very, you know, good size. And at one point it decided to delve into the financial industry. So it created kind of this spin-off company called, I believe it's pronounced Dayli, Dayli Financial Group. And the goal of this kind of spin-off company was to basically specialize in providing digital financial services throughout that industry. And that company as well, you know, when it got up and running, it received about a little less than $100 million in U.S. dollar terms as a kind of startup investment funding. So, you know, that wasn't just again, not like a fly-by-night startup, not some company running out of someone's basement or something like that. It's a real enterprise level financial company with a lot of resources. And what they eventually decided was, look, we see blockchain as an emerging technology. We have a lot of clients, and when I say clients, I mean basically anyone who was working with either the Daylight Financial Group or their parent company, the Yellow Mobile. We have a lot of potential clients who are going to be wanting to utilize this. So what they did is they started a company called The Loop, which if you've been in Icon a long time, you probably know. And if you haven't, The Loop eventually became Icon Loop. Icon Loop was basically built as a private company dedicated to building private blockchains, which I think is kind of what everyone recognizes it as now. And what happened is a lot of these clients said, hey, we think at some point in time it'll be helpful to have something that can connect all these private chains to each other because we think there's a lot of use cases here. So I think what's important to note is there was a lot of different blockchains that came about via ICOs that sometimes they said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we can put this on the blockchain or whatever it was. And they didn't really know for sure whether or not that was actually a good idea or not. And a lot of these people, you know, maybe they had some industries experience, but a lot of the people who came up in the ICOs were just kind of hoping to hop on the train. Hey, let's just find maybe something. We'll just stick blockchain on something and hopefully it sticks. A lot of those obviously didn't go so well. Icon's different because, you know, they didn't put the cart before the horse. They had clients come up and say, hey, we're a successful business. We're already doing business with you guys. We think this is something we would use and we would find valuable. So we hope you build it. So that's basically how Icon came about. So that's been, and so when you have all these partnerships that have been, you know, there was a huge wave that got announced from the early get-go during the ICO days. You know, I feel like it was like every day there was some new partnership getting announced or something like that. You know, just now we're starting to see them start to get borne out either through MyID or through other new developments and things like that. So that's Icon on the other hand. On one hand, on the other hand, you know, about I want to say a year or so ago, there was an Ask Me Anything with Ricky Dodds, and he basically pointed out that, you know, look, these are our long-term goals, all this interoperability, this hyperconnectivity. It's not easy though. It takes time. The tech is difficult. The business development is difficult. All these things are difficult. So we're diversifying a little bit and we're creating a situation where we're trying to encourage as much building on the actual platform as possible. And so that's where a lot of these other dApps are coming from. All this DeFi stuff. It's basically, you know, they're trying to facilitate, hey, look, you know, it's almost, you know, you take Ethereum. Ethereum is just a smart contract network that everyone's flocked to and is building on. And they've said, why can't we make Icon something similar? They think it has, and I would agree that it has a lot of technical advantages over Ethereum, and so it could be a good haven for developers. Now we basically have two streams going. One of them that says, okay, we have our enterprise, big picture, you know, large corporations utilizing our public blockchain at some point in the future. That still could be, you know, that could be next year. It still could be 5 years off, but it's something that's moving in the right direction. At the same time, we're making Icon as accessible to as many people as possible, as many developers as possible, and as many users as possible, because we think it's a valuable piece of technology that can be utilized really well, especially with a strong community behind it. And so, you know, with both of those paths going in the same direction and only growing in momentum over time, I think those, looking at it that way, it's hard not to be really, really bullish on Icon.
Look, you know, I must confess, your when I initially invested in Icon, I just gotten in before the craze, and I was quite new to crypto then. Invested, and obviously, from all-time highs. And I want to call out this show isn't about price, but once it started to creep down, I thought, you know what? Let me start reading up on what have I been investing in. And I read all those articles you published, and they were a real eye opener for me. And that's why I turned around and went, "Holy crap! This is very different to Ethereum and stuff where they are building and hoping it'll get adoption. We've got, this is a case of you've got the entire sector going, we want to adopt this, but we need something to connect all the dots." So it was very insightful, and yeah, I got a lot from it. So I encourage everyone to, if you haven't, to get, and you're interested in a bit of that background, to really read through those articles. Yeah, no, that's great. And look, one of the other things I wanted to add to this was the way you've explained it is perfect, because this interoperability portion that gets thrown out, the goal is to connect all blockchains. But I think one of the things that got missed along the way in this vision is the goal was to connect, priority given to obviously that private sector where they had all these individual blockchains and they wanted that one chain to connect it all up. Yes, in the bigger scheme of things, to connect up, all the public chains that are out there. But I feel at times in different spaces this gets shouted a lot. But the focus, obviously, for Icon Loop will be connecting their private chains, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing, because that gives the public chain its validation for existence in the first place. So just my 2 cents on the matter. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think there's more and more kind of I've noticed more and more other projects coming up that offer, they say the same thing, the hyperconnectivity, interoperability, whatever it might be, and in certain cases, I think Polkadot's the one that comes up the most. Um, um, Scott Smiley had a good breakdown of kind of why they're different, technically speaking. A little bit went over a bit over my head, but generally speaking, they're accomplishing similar things, but in a different manner, to the extent that they're not really quite the same thing. I'd also point out though that a lot of people, and this isn't just with hyperconnectivity, I think this is blockchain in general. There's a sense that at the end of the day, there's going to be like three blockchain projects that end up existing. It'll be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and their project ideally, and then everyone else, it'll just fall by the wayside. Where there'll only be like a Coke and Pepsi basically. But I don't think that'll happen at all. I think there's going to be a lot of fractured. It'll be a very, very fractured industry where you can have one project that dominates South Korea like Icon does, and maybe another project that dominates Europe, and maybe they do exactly the same thing. But if one's built up really strong use cases and business development and clients in one area, and another has another, then that's perfectly fine. Both projects will be successful. Both will work really well, and both will have longevity over the future. So I think people need to kind of, rather than saying, "Oh shoot, we're not going to." Icon has a potential competitor for world domination. I don't think world domination is the goal. Korea is a country of 52 million people. I think it sounds like Icon's potentially hopping into other parts of Asia too, to a certain extent, and being able to succeed just in Korea alone would be a massive win, not just for blockchain, but obviously for Icon as well. And that sort of outcome would make all token holders very happy, I would imagine.
You're right. No, it's a good call out, and something good to really, keep in mind, and let the building keep happening in the background. It's more now we need to, and this is where the next section of this podcast is leading to. That's a great overview about Icon. And today, what we're looking to go through is, because it's the first episode, let's talk about not necessarily the stuff Icon Loop is focused on. Let's talk about some of the DApps that are being built in the Icon ecosystem by the P reps and external devs that are, adding value to the ecosystem. So we thought, let's run through each of the lists, what they are, whether they're live, and what kind of opportunities they'll bring to the ecosystem. So let's dive in. And I think the perfect one to lead it off is Icon Bet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just for reference, these are kind of organized based on, I put together, I call it the master roadmap, again on my Medium page, kind of tracking all the different you know, publicly announced projects, applications, whatever you want to call it, being worked on right now that we know of, and providing resources to those as well. So we'll have that in the show notes as well, just so you guys have a place. If you haven't seen that already, you can go to there. But yeah, Icon Bet has been around. I want to say it was basically the first significant DApp built on Icon. It came out sometime in the middle of 2019, if my memory serves me correctly. It was, it's a casino. It's a decentralized casino at the end of the day. This has been a popular approach on crypto in general, to have these decentralized casinos, just because the key part is at the end of the day they run on smart contracts. You don't have to send your money to a centralized server held run by a casino in whatever country. And after you win, your money is instantly in your wallet. You play directly from your wallet. And in addition, what's very nice and unique about IconBet is you have a chance to own a stake in the casino itself. Usually, you go to a casino in Vegas, it's owned by a few rich people, and they get to basically keep all the profits. That's not really the case here. Just by owning some tap, you're entitled to a share of the daily profits from the casino. And I'd say almost all the time there is some sort of profit on a given day. Sometimes it's a little bit, sometimes it's a lot. It averages out to a pretty comfortable amount. I think everyone's been pretty happy, either because they've mined tap, which you can do by just betting via the casino, or you can buy it on the open market. I think everyone who's owned it has been pretty happy thus far, and is very, very bullish on it over the long term. So not only are you entitled to slices of revenue, but you're also entitled to a say in the governance of the platform, which means that you get to vote on whether or not new games are added. You get to vote on different ways of, maybe they changed how how certain tokens are distributed. I think two of the things that are most people are excited about, especially if they're holding tap. But even if they're not and they're just interested in gambling online, is there is a sports book coming out, which will offer the opportunity again to bet on various sports directly from your wallet. You don't have to send your money to a website and hope that you can get it out after you win. It's literally instantly there. This is done through decentralized oracles that will know the score of a game. So as soon as the game's over, it sends a signal to the smart contract, and the smart contract will release the funds back into your wallet, assuming you actually won. As well as Texas Hold'em Poker, which should provide a lot of new users, ideally. Again, because
That's
I
a big
think,
one.
yeah, having talked to a lot of people who play poker, it's one of the more frustrating things they've gone through is, they have all their winnings on a website and it takes months to get them off, or maybe they don't even get them off. So to be able to play directly from your wallet, I think will be a really big advantage as far as they're concerned. So there's a slew of other games also in the lineup, but again, these are all on the master roadmap I put together. But I would point out that those are two of the most biggest, both in terms of the chance to bring in additional revenue for people who hold tap, as well as the fact that it's people who just enjoy gambling on those things and don't know anything about tap. They're going to be drawn to the IconBet ecosystem just because it's such a unique approach to providing those gambling activities.
Yeah, I think one one of the things I love, I just love saying I own a casino. I'm not. It's just yeah. You tell your friends, yeah, I own a casino. They just roll their eyes at me because as soon as I go, when they ask how, it's through crypto co-ownership, they roll their eyes at crypto. But that's one of the fun parts of it. And one of the other things that I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, the idea of mining tap, that was introduced quite early on. This was before even Ethereum had this mine your tokens or retro drop your tokens. It was before all that craze started. So the IconBet team clearly put a lot of thought into, rather than doing an ICO, let's design a app, a D app that rewards the players by giving them ownership to it when they use it, and that's fantastic. I love that aspect of it. So
And it was a good,
And
it was a good model in the sense that it, there were a lot more tokens being given away at the beginning, and over time, every day the amount of tokens that get distributed gets cut by 0.5% or so. So
yes,
in I think in about a year or so, it's only going to be about 25,000 per day, whereas it started out at 1 million per day. So if you were an early miner, it was way more profitable. But the way it benefits the most is that, at the time when it first started, it only had one game, which was basically a roulette game called Dowlette, and so it wasn't, super enticing for regular players, but people who kind of saw the value knew that, oh, I have a chance to at least, I can play a lot and earn a lot of tap, and then they kind of became advocates for the platform. And then over time, as more and more games have gotten added, we're now going to get to a point where, in the past, people have been playing because they want to earn tap. We're going to come to a point, and we might have already come to it, where they want to play because, for the same reason that people all over the world spend billions, if not trillions of dollars gambling, is because it's a fun thing to do, and it's a way that they could potentially uh, win money. Obviously, you can potentially lose money as well. So it's important to know all the risks, but that's eventually kind of the pivot that it'll take is,
mm,
okay, yeah, there's still tap, but that's not the main thing driving people. And so I thought it was a really smart way to design that system.
mm. Yeah, and one of the best parts is how the ecosystem is built to encourage devs who have nothing to do. They can build their game and host it, and it
Yep.
benefits the devs, it benefits the tap holders, So it is it is just really well set up, and it is one of the most successful D apps. Well, it is the most successful D app on the Icon ecosystem, but in general, when in terms of transaction and what's going on in the blockchain space, it is right up there as well. So um, yeah, that's. If you haven't checked it out, I encourage you go have a play with it. I've created a bunch of tutorials as well around it, but around Icon Bet and showing what it's all about. So, and I think you've written an article yourself, haven't you?
Yep.
That
And
talks through.
another one, you can find a link to it on my Medium. It'll also be linked on my on that roadmap. But basically, kind of reiterating to a certain extent what I've talked about, but also diving into a little bit more on the tokenomics of Tap, and why it potentially has a bright future.
Excellent. Okay, so the next DApp protocol that is currently being built, so this isn't live, is OMM. Iconographer, what are your thoughts? What do you think about this one?
Yeah, so
What is it?
OMM actually stands for Open Money Market. And if you're not super versed on finance, a money market is basically a market for trading short-term debt. So basically, say you've got $1,000, you want to loan it out for 30 days because you need it for something else, and after that, but you want to make a little bit of interest on it. You could put that in. You could put that into a money market. Short-term treasuries, for instance, whether you're a treasury in America or a different country, they would classify. So the short easier definition is basically a way you can lend out your money over the shorter term, in order to make a bit of interest on it rather than just kind of having it sit there. So this is um, it's not entirely unique to crypto. There's similar platforms on Ethereum that allow you to do the same thing, but currently nothing on Icon. So the benefit is you can either, you basically deposit your funds into the platform. You can choose if you want to lend out ICX or a different IRC2 token that you have. Obviously, there aren't a whole lot right now, but there will be a lot by the end of this year. It allows you to loan those out at a given interest rate. The interest rate is determined by the demand for borrowing that and the supply of lending. So if there's a lot of people lending ICX, if you want to lend your ICX, you're probably going to get less for it. But if you're lending a token that maybe not as many people are loaning out, you could potentially earn more for it. More importantly, that the platform itself has a way. It has something called SIX, lowercase s ICX, that allows it to, while it's deposited, it earns staking rewards. So not only are you earning interest on the money you're loaning out as a loan, you're still earning those staking rewards on top of that. So right now they're around 12 or 13%, just by, just through voting and staking through the Icon network. But say you earn another 5% by loaning out your ICX, you could be making, 17% or so, through the OMM platform. At the same time, you also have the opportunity, if you want to borrow ICX, you can put some ICX as collateral and just store it on the platform, and then be able to take out more. Say you want to short ICX, you can utilize that borrowing feature in order to do that. You can do any other number of things with that ICX that you've borrowed, whether it's using it on other DeFi platforms or other kind of creative ideas you might have. As a side note, I've written a 8-part series on the decentralized finance dApps, including OMM coming to Icon pretty soon. And so there's some ideas kind of about how OMM works, but also some ideas on how you can utilize it along with some of the other dApps to kind of grow your Icon stash, if you will. So just a side note there. And again, that'll be in the notes as well. So you can lend, you can borrow, and while you're doing all this, you earn what are called OMM tokens, which entitle you to governance. The more you hold, the more governance power you have over the future of the platform. OMM also has a DAO fund, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization Fund, of basically all the transaction fees that the network collects go into this fund. There's a chance at some point in time that the token holders decide with their governance rights that, hey, anyone who holds OMM tokens is entitled to a share of this fund. So it doesn't provide direct income like others might, like Tap and Balanced, which we'll talk about in a second. But it does still have those governance rights, and it does offer the possibility in the future where you can be able to earn income off the platform. So that is supposed to come out sometime this first quarter. It could get bumped, but it sounds like it's on track. So that's something that I think everyone should be excited about. Just whether you want to earn more interest, whether you want to borrow ICX for various needs, or if you just want to mine those tokens, there's a lot of potential opportunity there.
Yeah, I would say think of OMM as, if you're comparing it to something that's existing, is your Aave or Compound. It would work on the same basis. So that's a good one, especially if you're in the blockchain ecosystem and know a fair bit about DeFi. What is different, I feel, about this round? So the 2017 boom, etc. The difference with some of these protocols that are coming out is they're not launching a token and making promises. Okay, their token is being released more as a control governance mechanism. However, they have a working product that you can actually use, and who doesn't want to get interest of 4, 5, 6, 7% compared to the banks giving under 1% these days. So there's a big difference, and that's why some of these protocols are particularly exciting, because real life use cases and a working product when it launches. That's what gives the token. So one of the other things I think Benny had mentioned was this protocol in particular will give you the opportunity to deposit US dollars from your bank account straight into the protocol, and it mints it into what is it, ICD,
the
bridge dollars.
Yeah, the bridge dollars, which is the bridge widget, which everyone's been waiting for. Basically is a way to easily convert US dollar fiat into Icon as kind of an on-ramp. So that, I think it's that alone probably will fit into another episode as far as the possibilities there.
Yes.
But that's that'll be it'll be a USD backed stable coin coming onto Icon, which will be nice in its own right to have. But in addition to that, it's a much easier way to get people from a US dollar in their bank account to Icon, rather than having to say, okay, you have to sign up for this exchange, you have to deposit your funds, you have to do KYC, you have to jump through all these hoops just to buy and utilize ICX. Rather than that, you're cutting out a lot of different steps, which should help a lot in terms of broadening the accessibility of ICX and broadening the accessibility of these dApps to the general public.
Excellent. Okay, so the next one we have is Balanced.
Yes. So this is kind of to a certain extent, they're kind of work hand in hand. They've kind of been developed at the same time. OMM and Balance have been kind of developed and launched around the same time. So they're kind of on parallel tracks. They do a little bit similar, but I think the key part for Balanced is, speaking of stable coins, Balanced will be the primary generator of what's called Icon dollars, which are basically a stable coin that is backed by hard assets. The hard assets in this case, at least to start, will be ICX. So you have to say you want you want to borrow 100 icon dollars. You will have to put up $400 worth of ICX into the protocol. Then you get that $100, and at any time you can trade that $100 in back for your ICX. So even if the price of ICX goes up 10x while you have those $100 out, you can still trade them in and close out your position. This will be nice because it'll be really helpful to have a stable coin on Icon for a lot of different reasons. In addition to that, it provides another ability to borrow funds. Maybe in certain circumstances it's a bit more reasonable or affordable to do it but the interest rate you might be paying via OMM. So it might make sense there. In addition, Balance also offers a token that you get by participating in the protocol. So if you're depositing collateral and you're receiving Icon dollars, while that's there, you're receiving what are called Balance tokens. They also provide governance rights over the protocol like OMM does. But in addition, they actively entitle holders to a share of all the fees that are generated by the platform itself. So there's transaction fees, there's origination fees, there's actually a decentralized exchange as well that allows you to trade between assets. So you have a chance to earn fees from that. So just by owning the token, the Balance token, it could be lucrative on its own if the platform itself is successful. But you also have governance rights over it. And then, hey, you can take that. Say you have a bunch of Balance tokens, you can actually take those over to OMM if you want, and you can loan those out and earn some interest on them. So again, this is kind of where you start to see some of these DeFi protocols start to work together. And again, I'd advise you to take a look at the DeFi guide that I wrote to get a better understanding of how all this works. But as more and more IRC2 tokens come into existence, either in this case via Icon dollars or via Balanced or via the OMM tokens, there's a lot of different kind of ways you can play around with them and utilize them and do other things like that. So this is another one that is scheduled to come out Q1 of this year. So theoretically before the end of March. Again, sometimes these things can get delayed for various reasons. Having, COVID, I think, has been created a lot of negative impacts on development as a whole throughout the industry. But this one should be coming up shortly along with OMM. So it's another one I'm very excited for.
Yes, look, I agree. Balance to me is Maker on Icon. Being able to use the native asset ICX and mint a stablecoin is fantastic, and it is probably one of the biggest protocols that enabled everything that's happening on Ethereum now. The ability to lock up ETH and mint DAI gave those large ETH bag holders, this they can do something with the ETH early on in the Ethereum days. All of a sudden I can leverage and acquire more ETH and just sit on it. And Balance will do that for Icon as well as so many other things, because one of the best parts is we're not starting from scratch, whereas Ethereum, it was very much could this work? Let's trial it. That's why you had Psi. Before that, there was something else. Then they revised, finally multi-collateral DAI. With Icon Balance particularly, they can take those learnings and kick off the protocol correctly from the start. I know from talking to Benny in the Telegram chats and stuff, they're very keen to ensure ICX stays the native asset being able to mint. But that's the beauty of these protocols. That's why the governance token exists, because users or devs or anyone can put up these proposals and say, okay, look, maybe we've reached our limit. How about we now start taking on certain other assets to mint so that we can mint more ICDs, dollars, US dollars from ICX. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, very excited to see this go live. And as soon as this protocol goes live, it's going to straight away enable a few things you can do with your ICX, and just the example you gave, lending opportunities and high interest rates, things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think
okay.
if you're if some of this sounds like a foreign language to you, and to a certain extent it really can. Again, I keep referencing that DeFi guide. I wrote it in a way that's basically, assumes people are coming to this with obviously some crypto knowledge, but basically zero understanding of what DeFi is. Maybe they're kind of scared of it based on some of the headlines they saw over the summer or whatever it might be. So it's a way that I'm really trying to make it as accessible as possible to understand, and so people can be as prepared as possible to potentially utilize these platforms once they come online. So again, if a lot of this is confusing and it is for pretty much everyone, I definitely encourage you to take a look there. So
Yes.
next we'll take a look at Project Nebula, which is a something it's been in the works for a while now. Icon Forge, the P rep, they're the team working on it. It's basically a space exploration game that's built on Icon. I think what the key part of it here is that it relies on a core part of the game mechanics are it's planet exploration, it's planet colonization. It's a way to kind of build up resources, grow your resources, and be able to explore different parts of the universe. I think what's important is the planets themselves are what are called non-fungible tokens, so NFTs basically, which means that if you're playing a game, any video game over the last basically since they've existed, if you had a character that had especially high rankings, or you had a really rare sword or something like that, as soon as you stop playing the game, all that work you kind of put it into it, as amazing your character might be, or as amazing as a certain asset might be, as soon as you close the game and turned off the computer or deleted the game, it was gone forever. NFTs are different in the sense that they'll be attached to your Icon wallet. So you own them as much as you own ICX or any other crypto. So throughout the process of this game, and we haven't gotten a whole lot of chance to see the gameplay yet because it's still earlyish in the development stage. It's coming out, it's supposed to come out this year, but we're still learning more and more about it. But basically, if you build a really impressive set of planets, you put a lot of time into it, and eventually you decide, oh, I don't really, I've kind of accomplished all I want to do. I've got to move on to a different game or whatever it is. Rather than those things kind of vanishing in midair, instead, maybe there's a new player coming along who gets really excited about the game. You can actually sell those planets to that player, and they would own them now, not just and they wouldn't be in your wallet anymore. They'd be in there. So this is a concept that gets a lot of people really excited. It's something that's really taken crypto as a whole kind of, I don't want to say by storm at this point, but it's something that's getting more and more interest throughout crypto in a lot of different ways. And so some people are really into it, some people are still kind of trying to understand it, but either way, I think it's a really unique approach to gaming, and I think it could make it a lot more interesting. They had a pre-sale selling a good chunk of planets early on to help they were selling the planets to help fund the development of the project. And they actually had to change the rules of the pre-sale because the way they had it structured to begin with, the planets were selling out at such a high rate that not enough people were able to get access to them. So it was kind of a bummer that they had to change it, but at the same time, it showed just how much demand there was for these planets, and a lot of people felt that they would potentially be valuable over the long term because they were spending money on it. So I'll admit I own a couple just because I am interested to see how the project evolves, and I don't want to miss out if it ends up being wildly popular. I'm eagerly awaiting to see kind of more footage of how the game will kind of play out. There are some screenshots and things like that floating around. This is another one where I've written a lengthy article explaining it. I talked with the team behind it, kind of what their motivations are, what their thoughts are, and so this is another one that's coming out either. I can't remember if it's. I think they're starting their beta in Q1, but they're supposed to launch full sometime this year. But it's another one I'm certainly excited about. I know a lot of other people throughout the community are as well.
Look, the first day of the pre-sale, I remember as soon as the marketplace went live, I was clicking on the planets. There were so many there. I decided, let me read and see the differences, and it's gone. Everything. Next week, I realized I didn't have the luxury of actually reading or trying to decide which planet, try to grab whatever's available. But what was great, the team adapted quite quickly, and they listened to community feedback. And it went from there. And to make it fair, they did a raffle system, and the Genesis phase has ended for the planets, and now the marketplace is open. So even though you can't play the game, people who have planets can actually sell. And a good example here, the uncommons were selling for 25 ICX, I believe. Now, when you look at the marketplace now that the event is over by the devs, everyone's listing for minimum 90, 85 ICX. So already they're holding their value, which is good to see. But when the game launches, it could be another thing. But I think, again, this is completely different sector, gaming. What a perfect game to kick it off, space. There's just so much you can do with that, genre. So, and being a big gamer and particularly a fan of space kind of games, now, like No Man's Sky, I was a big fan of that. This game, Project Nebula, is completely different, but the theme is the same, exploration space, which I loved about No Man's Sky. So um, this will have that civilization style approach, and very, very excited to see how it pans out. Yeah, great. So the next one, craft.
Yeah, so kind of spinning off a little bit on the NFT concept. This is a one built by Stakey.io, another PREP. It's still they still haven't released a whole lot of details on it, but they have given out some information. But what it is, it'll be a platform for iconists to go ahead and mint or create their own NFTs. So right now, theoretically, I think this is possible because the coding is there on the protocol itself on Icon, but it's very difficult unless you have programming knowledge. So what this will do is it makes it much more accessible for someone to create an NFT. Now, an example of that might be, let's say I'm a digital artist. Maybe I make some money on digital art in some other part of the internet, but then, I'm also really into icons. So what I decided to do is I'm going to make 10 pieces of art in a really creative way that somehow try to either, promote or recognize the icon ecosystem. So what I can do is I can make 10 separate NFTs and I can put them up for auction on this same platform on Craft. And, if people are really into my art, they can own the single piece of art just like they would, if they bought a piece of art and they hung it in their house or something like that. This is a model that's, been working on Ethereum already. I saw there was something where a digital artist put up a piece and an NFT and it sold for $65,000 or something like that. So this is a market where there is demand. And so not only will it give you a chance to actually create the NFT, but it'll have a marketplace as well where people can buy and exchange. So say you paid $60,000 for a piece, and then 10 years later you decided you want to sell it. Maybe not that. Maybe it'd be a year later. You could put it up for sale on this marketplace, and I assume it would be kind of an auction style kind of situation where people could bid on it, and you could sell it, and then it would go to someone else's wallet, and then they would be the owner as long as they had access to that wallet. So it's an emerging space. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities there. Again, I think some people still don't get it because it's kind of like, well, if it's on a computer, can't everyone have it? But there is something to be said for holding an actual asset that truly only you own. And so that's another one. I'm excited to get more information on this as it comes out. I know they're working pretty hard. So this is another one that'll be, another cool kind of milestone for the ecosystem, for the Icon ecosystem.
So finish this off for me if I've got this correct. I'm an artist. I know NFTs all the rage. However, I just don't get it. Craft will build that platform where I can just focus on my art and get it out to the marketplace for all the eyes and people who are aware of how to use, this technology. But it is essentially simplifying it for the end user and introducing them to the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I again, I haven't seen specific details on it. What I would anticipate it probably looks something like is, say, you can you create an account with your wallet, kind of like you would log into any other dApp on Icon, like an Icon Bet or something. And then you could say, okay, I want to, I'm going to upload this picture. I want to create only one of these. I want to create 10 of these. I want to create 50 of these, whatever it might be. And then you probably include a description of it, something like that, and then hit go, and all of a sudden, your wallet's full of 50 of these things, which you can then put on the marketplace or send around as gifts or whatever it might be. Again, that's kind of what I would anticipate. It flows something like that. And I could be wrong, but I think that's that would be that's the approach others have taken on different blockchain networks. So I would be surprised if it strayed too far from that for Icon.
I'd probably foresee when everything's up and running, me taking my planet from Project Nebula and putting it on Craft just to see what kind of
Yeah.
bids I'm getting on that marketplace. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of this technology. It enables you to do that. You're not confined to the garden walls of one game, DApp. It is you essentially it's yours, and you can take it to anything that would support it. So
exactly.
yeah, no, great. Okay, so the next one, Orbit Bridge. So Orbit Bridge, this came kind of out of left field. The foundation did an update saying we've now partnered. Orbit Bridge enables assets to be taken to and from Ethereum. It acts as a bridge between the networks. Now, straight away, but wasn't that Icon's vision, interoperability? A little bit different. Orbit Bridge is strictly designed to take a token, it locks it, it has validators that confirm what's been locked in the smart contract, and then it's minted on the same token, the same amount is minted on the other side. So, for example, if you take DAI on Ethereum, they built a bridge and it's extremely simple. I've created a tutorial around this as well. You can transfer the DAI onto Icon and it gets minted as iDAI. In terms of fees, you pay just the gas costs, and gas on Ethereum is expensive. Once it comes onto Ethereum, it's in your wallet and you can do as you please with it. Now, the bridge, the concept is great. In reality, what its use cases at the moment, its primary use case would be if an AMM chooses to list these assets, iDAI, iETH, and the various tokens the platform enables, and it doesn't enable all thousands.
And an AMM, for those who don't know, is an automated market maker, which is it's a DeFi platform basically for exchanging assets in a decentralized manner.
Exactly. Yep. I get carried away. How can everyone not know this? No. So on that note, once these AMMs introduced, decentralized exchanges introduced, you could provide liquidity. And, at the moment, a lot of people don't like trading on centralized exchanges. They want to do it straight from their wallet directly with a decentralized exchange. And it's extremely popular. Uniswap, 1inch, which is an aggregator, SushiSwap now, they're all having record trading on it. And believe it or not, people are paying ridiculous sums of money in fees. So what this bridge enables is you can remove some of these assets off Ethereum, bring it across, and trade it on Icon for next to nothing and be completely decentralized. And that's just one of the use cases that I've suggested. Another aspect could be using the balancer protocol, minting ICD, swapping your ICD for iDAI and moving it onto the Ethereum ecosystem to purchase whatever you want that isn't currently available on Icon in completely decentralized with no central entity involved. So one could argue your central entity is Orbit Bridge, but even that protocol validates via so there are 9 different Icon Foundation and institutions that actually run nodes and validate what is being transferred on and off. And if they all aren't in consensus, it doesn't allow that transfer to happen. So, it is a start, and it's just like with anything. Even Ethereum started with a vision and had nothing but ICOs, and then things got built on it. This is a great start of migrating assets, and what we do from here, well, there's options we just haven't thought of. So very excited. If you want to know more, take a look at the tutorial. I think from memory, it's in your guide as well, Iconographer. So yeah, it is a great little thing the Icon ecosystem has picked up.
Yeah, and it's not pure hyperconnectivity and interoperability, just because it does rely on a few kind of tricks to make it work. But it is a nice first step into breaking down those walls between, in this case, Icon and Ethereum, and creating the start of a chance to have cross-chain interactions, cross-chain trading, things of that nature. So it's the first step in a wide world of possibilities, but it's been exciting to kind of see it start to happen. And it was one thing that kind of came out of nowhere too. A lot of people weren't really aware of it, and all of a sudden they popped up and said, "Hey, we're doing this, and hey, it'll be ready soon." And it launched really quickly. And thus far, people have used it successfully, and it's been valuable thus far.
Excellent. Okay, so the next one, and we only have a couple more to run through. Epics.
Yeah. So Epics, the key is ICX. EPICX is the way it's spelled. It is built by Icon Mitos, the PREP. There's an existing iteration of it called Future ICX, which has been out for a little while now. It's basically a platform. If you think the price of ICX is going in a certain direction, either up or down, you could either buy it and when it goes to that price, sell it and make some ICX, or you can find a way to short it if you want to. In this case, it's a way to kind of gamify it a little bit and turn it into a bit more of a competitive process, to where you say, okay, I think the price of ICX is going to be at $1 within a month. And based on the rules of the platform, the people who come closest to that compared to their competitors end up winning a prize. So it's a unique way to kind of allow people to speculate on the price without necessarily trading in a more traditional manner. They're actually updating it and adding a whole lot of new features. They haven't unveiled all of them yet. I think we're still waiting on that. But the bigger picture way to look at it is they're basically adding a whole lot of new features to this core concept. They're adding a whole lot of more trading pairs, and they're adding a whole lot more different ways to kind of play the game, whether it's tournaments or more elaborate gameplay. So again, it's something they're still working on, and they're still rolling out the details of. But their current iteration of it, called Future ICX, is available now if you want to go and play it. And again, we'll link to that in the show notes. But again, their next iteration, called Epics, they're working really hard on it. They're thinking through a lot of different things on how to make it the most fun gameplay possible. And it's one I'm certainly excited to see once the final product's ready to go.
Yeah, agree. Look, one of the things, and kudos to the team, that they had a working D app, but after a lot of feedback from the community, they have done a bit of a rebrand and really redrawing it from ground up, which is great to see. So I was thinking very early on in Ethereum days as well, this was probably one of the first D apps available, but I cannot for the life of me remember the protocol's name. But it is essentially a protocol like this exists on all the different blockchain ecosystems. So it's great to see this also on Icon, because everyone believes they're a pro trader. Heck, even I think I'm a pro trader at making all the wrong decisions. That is, but
well, especially too that the competitive part of it is, I've seen some people, some arguments break out into Telegram channels, whether it's trading channels or things like that. Basically, one person says there's, based on my technical analysis, there's no way it goes above this price by this date, and someone else says, oh, you're way off on that. Rather than just kind of bickering, it's a chance to kind of put your money where your mouth is, and so I think that's the added excitement of it.
Agree. Okay, great. So the last one we're going to cover today is Bounty Cat.
So Bounty Cat, and this one's slated for release a bit later in the year, probably sometime around the middle of the year, if I'm correct. I think it's actually Q3 technically at this point in time. This one's built by Foundry Box Media, the PREP. They're building it. It's basically it's a pretty unique approach. It's not something I've really seen on any other crypto platform, whether it's Ethereum or something else. But it's basically a platform to help create and fund viral marketing efforts. So right now, say you're let's use IconBet as an example. If you want to run a promotion, say to try to get the word out about IconBet, you can kind of say, hey, if 50 people tweet this, we'll give each of them 10 ICX if they do that, right? And that's kind of a pain to do, because then you got to track who tweeted it. You got to send them all the ICX and everything like that. What Bounty Cat conceptually will allow you to do is essentially, create a campaign, fund it by putting the funds into a smart contract, and then basically adding tasks. They call them bounties, basically saying, okay, if you send out a tweet about this that says this, you will get this much ICX, or this much funding for doing it. And so rather than the person funding the campaign having to sit there and track, okay, who did what and everything like that, it all sort of runs automatically. And so people who want to earn a little bit of extra money and don't mind promoting stuff on their social media accounts or other venues, they can hop onto that platform and say, okay, if I tweet about this, I'll get this much. If I tweet about this, I'll get this much. Things like that. So it's certainly got some interesting technical challenges ahead of it in terms of integrating with those different platforms. I spent a lot of time talking with the team about it, and they've got a pretty good handle on kind of how they want to design. They're still thinking through some stuff, but for I think the timing will be perfect because a lot of these DApps will have a good foundation, but they'll be looking to expand their marketing, especially again, IconBet being a kind of a core example. And this will take a lot of strain off the marketing teams to know that they can just kind of do this more automatically through a smart contract. And if it's built well, if it's built reliably, I think everyone will be pretty happy at the end of it. So again, this is something a little bit later in the year, but it's another one I've written a lengthy article about if you want to learn more about it. But it's another one I'm excited to see how it gets implemented and how it gets designed, and how successful it can be.
Marketing, you say,
Yeah,
huh? A marketing
yeah.
icon. Oh, this is just too perfect. With everything going around, yeah. Look, I actually didn't know much about this. I think the the summary I had was from reading your article. However, for the life of me, I can't remember much of it. But yeah, your summary is brilliant, and it just ticked those boxes in my head regarding marketing. Yeah, the amount of people that it would just roll in to go, okay, I can help with this will be sensational. So it's a great product and perfect for the Icon ecosystem. And it's not just designed for Icon, is it? Or the D apps running on Icon. The goal is for everything, but I'm guessing this is where it's going to
Yeah,
start. And
I
it's
think if
just
it can get designed and built and function as it's kind of hoped for, I think it really could, to a certain extent, revolutionize a certain part of the marketing industry, just to kind of because it does make things so easily. It will run on Icon, but I presume by that point in time, or sometime in the future, they'll be able to integrate it with Bridge or other different cryptos or things like that to make it much more accessible to the broader public if the use case itself turns out to be as successful as they hope it will be.
okay. No, that's another exciting one. Okay, I think let's stop it there. I mean, this is not all. There's actually many more, and we could keep going. This could turn into a 2 3 hour podcast, but everyone has lives to live and disconnect from their phones. So let's wrap it up. One of the things I wanted to uh, make sure everyone knew as well is in future episodes, we are going to cover Icon 2.0. We're going to cover CPF. We're going to cover BTP. And I know I'm giving all the acronyms for this stuff, but this is all that is just bubbling in the background. Things are happening, and we are going to come to you and talk through it and what it means for you as the everyday user, for the Icon ecosystem, and for devs, how they can partake and how it helps them, especially the CPF when that rolls out. That's going to be great because it enables anyone and everyone to come and work on something and build it on Icon. So very exciting stuff to come in the
And I
future.
think, yeah,
Your
yeah, I
thoughts,
think
Iconographer?
like you kind of iterated, this is just kind of a small helping. Obviously, there's more being built than what we've discussed here. I'd also say there's more being built that hasn't even been announced, that you or I aren't even aware of. So each new day potentially brings another really exciting project that could really move the ball on Icon and add further utility to having the token. I think too on some of these topics, on especially some of the more technical ones, we're hoping to have some additional guests on to kind of really get in depth on them, and to really kind of explain why certain ideas or why certain projects could be really interesting and how exactly they might work and things like that. So there's going to be I think there's a lot of good content on the runway here. So we certainly hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we'll enjoy our subscribe and will enjoy our future episodes as well.
Yes, excellent. And that's what I was going to lead to. If you have enjoyed this podcast as much as we've enjoyed talking about Icon and giving you all the information, please subscribe, like, to make it, ensure we can keep making this content. And if you feel it'll benefit anyone, pass it on. So the more people that listen, the better it is. And hopefully we get some new people into the Icon ecosystem excited about what's being built here.